Okay, as I promised, and I have also posted another exercise for the final exam, so that is for the practice too. And well, as for this file, I promise you have never seen this file before, so I'm gonna just use this as a challenge to you guys and a challenge for me as well. Okay, well, one thing I want to point out is when you are downloading those files, and remember there are two files. You want to download both of them, and you want to put both of them into the same uh, project in PyCharm. Okay, like those two files are this one. So we are going to work on this one because there are the question descriptions. And talking about the other file, and then this is just a module for testing purpose. So we don't have to touch this file, but we do have to download and put those two files together, because for the second file, it is imported here. So when we are running this file, well, I can call this master file. So when I'm running this master file, and then actually the other file is imported as well. Okay, well, and another thing I want to point out is you cannot do additional imports. So, well, probably this will be a requirement for the final exam as well. So, you can't import any additional modules. Okay, so I have not seen those questions, so let me try to work on those questions. Okay, this is gonna be fun. Create a function is int different even to meet the conditions below, accept two integers, and then add a meaningful documentation string, and determine if the integer difference between the two values is even. And if it is even, I'm going to do a true, otherwise I'm going to do a false. Okay, yep. def this, and then num1 comma num2, and both of them will be integers, and then meaningful. Okay, so don't, well, in the final exam, don't do that. I'm just doing this to save myself some time. And after that, say I want to do a num1 minus num2. So that will be the difference between two of them. And then I'm going to do a mode2 equals 0. So if it if it equals 0, that's an even value, so that will be a true. So I'm going to return this. Okay, so I'm trying to get the difference of those two values, mode2, and then check whether the difference mode2 is a 0 or not. If it is mode2 is a 0, and then that's an even difference, so I'm going to return a true. Okay, so let me run this. Okay, 3 out of 3. The first question is done. Okay, the second one, will create function, the num count to meet the conditions below, accept two parameters, a list of arbitrary numbers and the integer value, add a meaningful documentation string, and searches, that's a typo, searches the number of the times the past integer number occurs in the list. And if we are looking for the 2 here, there are 3 times 100 is 0, and then okay, and then we can now use count function. Okay, so it prohibits me to use the count function. Okay, so I have to implement this functionality by myself, df, and then there are 2 parameters. The first one is a list, so the num underscore list, and then value to search. Okay, so it's just my personal preferences. I want to use longer variable names. So for I in the num list colon, and then I also want to have a counter. So counter equals 0, and then if I equals the value to search. So if the current value I'm visiting is exactly the same to the value I'm looking for, and then I'm going to increase the counter by 1 plus equals 1, and then eventually I'm going to do a return of the counter. Okay, so let me run this. Okay, so the second one is also good. And meaningful. Okay. So the next one, we'll create a function sum values to meet the conditions below, accept two parameters, a list of arbitrary numbers, and a integer value. add a meaningful docstring and return the sum of the first n value in the list. Okay, so we only have the n values. Like for this one, if we only have the 3 and then we only get the first 3 values and then add them together. Okay, and then restriction, we cannot use the sum. Okay. Oh, you may assume that the n is less or equal to the length of the list. Okay, yep. So that's okay. So df, and then there are two lists: the list nums and comma first n. Okay, so those are, and then a documentation, of course, meaningful. And after that, let me do a for I in the range of first n. Okay, and then I'm also going to create a variable called total equals 0, and then I'm going to do for I in the range of the first n. Okay, yep, that's right. And then I want to do the list nums with the square bracket at the end, and then I'm adding this number to the total, so total plus this number, and then eventually I want to return total. Okay, so what I did was, well, it told me that I only keep the first n. So if we are keeping the first n, and then the indexes for the first n values will be from 0 to n minus 1. So I want to create a range like this. Say for this one, if you want to keep the first 3 of them, and then that is index 0, index 1, and index 2. Okay, yep, and then I believe this is correct. Let me run this, and ta-da, okay, it works. So the next one, create a function count pairs to meet the conditions below. Accept two lists of arbitrary number and a integer as a parameter. Add a meaningful documentation string and find every possible pairs between list 1 and list 2 that when add up is equals to the integer value. Okay, so if we want to have this list, and then we have 8, and then there are 3 possible combinations. So 4 and 4, or 7 and 1, or 7 and 1. Okay, so well, it allows us to count the duplicated entries. Okay, and 4.2 and 2.4, they can be counted as different entries as well. Okay, so let's see. I want to grab this function name. So df, and then paste list 1, list 2, comma target. Okay, and I want to return. What am I returning? So I'm returning integer. So return the number of pairs. Okay, so there are 3 pairs, so I'm gonna return a string. Okay, so counter of pairs equals 0, and then I'm gonna just exhaustively try to find each possible pair, one from list 1 and another one from list 2. So for I in list 1 and for j in list 2, and then if the sum of the I and j, they are the same, if I plus j equals the target, and then we find a working pair, and then I want to increase the counter by 1. So the counter of the pairs plus equals 1. Eventually I want to do a return of the counter of the pairs. Okay, so I believe that's it. And then I also want to have a documentation string. So this is for question 4. Okay, question 4 is done. Okay, create a function is a common item to meet the condition below. Accept two lists of arbitrary values as parameters. Add the meaningful documentation string. Return true if the list share at least one common member. Otherwise, false. Okay, so this means we don't have to finish all the searches as long as we find one. Okay, bless myself. Okay, so as long as we find one common value and then we can return a true, and then we have to finish all the possible searches. If we cannot find one, and then we are going to return a false. So okay, you are not allowed to use set. It doesn't matter because in our lecture we didn't talk about set. And then we want to return a boolean. Okay. Okay, so let me do df, and then we are going to have the list 1 comma list 2 colon for I. How about we do this for I in list 1, and then if I in list 2, and then I'm going to return a true immediately. So when do we return false? We are going to return false after we have visited all the values in list 1. So I can do else return false. Okay, so if you don't like that, and then you can take out the else, and then you can do this version as well. So they are both okay. Let me add the documentation string. Okay, and let me run this. This is question 5. Okay, so for question 5 it's also done. Okay, so it doesn't say I can't use the in operator, right? Okay, I don't see they asked me to not use the in operator, so I'm using that. So create a function create word to meet the conditions below, accept a list of the string as parameter, and extract the first character from the first item, the second character from the second item, the third character from the third item, and so on. Add them to each and return the result as a string. So case for form yellow, and then C, and then O, O, L. Okay. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, def, and then string list comma, and I think that's the only parameter. Yes, so that is the list of the strings, and then I want to add a meaningful documentation string, and then I want to do it this way. So for I in the range of the length of the string list. Okay, because I do believe I need to use the indexes in this case, and then a string underscore build equals a empty string for now, and then for each instead of okay, and then first I want to use the list as the string list with index I to grab the current string. So and then I want to use the I again to grab a specific character, and then I want to add that character to the string to build, and eventually I want to return the string build. Okay, so let me run this. This is question 6. So question 6 is also done. Okay, let me explain a little bit more. So for this question, well, for the first string, I'm grabbing the first character. So the C is this C. For the second string, I'm grabbing the second character. So this O is this O. And for the third string, I'm grabbing the third character. So I have another O. And then for the fourth string, I'm grabbing the fourth character, so we have the L. So combining all 4 characters together, I have cool, right? Okay, so well, the first index, that is to grab a specific string from the input string list, and the second one is I want to grab a specific character from that string. So it just happens that I'm going to use the index I and the index I again. Okay, so far so good. The next one is open and return fml to meet the conditions below. Okay, accept one parameter, one string. That is a file of the name of a file, and then I want to add a documentation string, and then the file will contain unknown odd number of lines. Okay, and then store the first, the middle, and the last line of the file in a single string var. And you may assume there are odd number of the lines in the file, and ensure to strip the new line character from the lines. And for example, if you want to do this way, and then you are gonna grab the first line, the middle line, and then the last line, and then combine them together. And then by saying strip, that is to get rid of the \n. Okay, so well, let me try to see the test code of this question. Okay, so that is for this question. This code builds the sample input 1 and also sample input 2. So there are two sample input will be added here and here. Sample input 1, sample input 2. Okay, are they? Oops, sample input 1. Okay, so that's here. So the sample input 1 is here. And do we really have the sample input 2? I don't really have the sample input 2 for now, but I guess I'm not worrying about that. So let me go back to my function definition. So def, and then I'm going to do a file len. Okay, and then I want to do a open. So file. How about I call this file pass? And then file len equals open, and the file pass and comma, I want to open that for reading. And then how about we do this way? We want to create a list of strings. So I want to read all the lines into this list of the strings. So content list, content file list equals the empty list, and then I'm going to do for line in. So for line in file len, and then colon, and then I want to do this way. So for this content file list plus equals the line. Okay, so for this part, I'm doing nothing more than grab each of the line and then put that to the content file list. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to figure out how to grab the first line, the last line, and the middle line. Okay, so for this one, the length will be 5 because there are a total of 5 lines. So and then this is, if we count the indexes, this is index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, and the index 4. So the middle one is the index 2. Okay, so let's do this way. For the middle, index equals the length of the content file list, the floor divided by 2. Okay, and then I want to grab all 3 of the lines together. So I want to do this way. So the first line equals, of course, that is the content file list with the index 0, and then for the last line equals, of course, that will be the content of the file list, and then with the -1, that's the last, and then for the middle line equals, and then the content file list, and then the middle index. Okay, so after that, here is one more thing to do because it requires me to strip the string to get rid of the last n. So well, if you know this, and then you can do a strip parentheses, or you can do this way. So you can do a replace, and then you are just replacing the backslash n comma to nothing. Okay, that's it. Because well, we are only worrying about the backslash n's. Well, if there's a backslash n at the very end of this line, and then I'm going to replace the backslash n with nothing, and eventually I want to combine those three lines together without the spaces in the middle. So I'm returning the first line comma the middle line comma plus last line. So instead of doing the comma, I want to add all three of them together, and then I want to do a Q7. So quick. Oh, Q7, I got a 0 out of 0. So there is something wrong for sure. So how about let me print this out. So let me print what I'm about to return, and see what are the output here. So 0 out of 3, okay, and then testing, open, and return. Okay, I'm returning. I'm getting only. Okay. Oh. Okay, that's the reason. So I want to do dot append. Okay. Yeah, now I think I should be correct. Let me run this again. Okay, yes. So I got question 7. Okay, so the question 9. Create a function write even numbers to meet the conditions below. I'm going to take a string, the name of the file, and then a integer value, and add a meaningful documentation string. Open the file for writing, and then write to the file all of the even numbers between 2 and the integer value inclusive. Each number should be on a separate line in the file, and don't forget to close the file. Okay. Oh, and I want to close the file in as well. So, okay, like this. It doesn't hurt anything, but it's a good practice that we always close our files. Okay, so file pass, and then the n value. Okay, so I'm gonna create a documentation string. And after that, I'm gonna open this file. So file out equals open, and then the file path, and then comma for writing purpose. And then for the file out, I'm gonna try to do iteration, and then write all the. Am I writing all the even values or odd values? Okay, all the even values. Okay, from 2 to the integer value inclusive. Okay, good. So for I in range, so I'm going to start from the 2, and then I'm going to end on n plus 1 because n is included. Okay, and after that, what else should we do? And I want to write the integer values. So if I %2 equals 0, so that is the even value, and then I want to write this value into the file out dot write, and then when I'm writing that value, I have to cast the current integer into a string, and then I also want to do a backslash n, and eventually I want to do a close. So file out dot close parentheses. Okay, I guess that's it. Okay, so that's it, question 8, and question 8 is also done. Okay, so the next question, create a function translate Morse. Oh, Morse code. And do you guys remember that actually in the week 15 topic on Flipgrid, we do talk about the Morse code. Okay, so for the Morse code, there are only two possible sounds: D as a dot and da as a dash. So D da is A, and so D da means A, and da D means B, etc. Okay, so well we are gonna we are gonna have a dictionary like this. Okay, let me see. Accept two parameters, a Morse code to English dictionary, and then a tuple of Morse code characters. Okay, and this will be a dictionary, and then this is a tuple we are going to receive, and then we are going to translate this tuple into a English word. Okay, that's really a good question. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. So def, and then I'm gonna take two parameters, Morse dictionary, comma, and then I also want to do a tuple param. Okay, and then I'm gonna do a documentation, of course, meaningful. Okay, and after that, I want to create a string because I want to for each character I'm going to translate from Morse code into a specific English character. So that is the string to build equals the empty string, and then I want to do for code Morse code in tuple param, and then I'm gonna grab that part and I'm gonna use this as a key to grab the corresponding value. So for this one, for example, this is C, right? So this part will be C. So using the da d as the key, and then I will be able to get the C. So it should be work like this. So the Morse code dictionary with the current Morse code as a key, and then I will be able to get the value. And then I want to add this value to the string to build. So string to build plus equals, and then the query result using the Morse code as the key, and then I will be able to get the value. And then I want to add that to the string to build, and then eventually I want to do a return string to build. Okay, so I guess that's it. Let me run this. This is question 9 already. So question 9, okay, I'll get. Okay, and then how about the question 10? So create a function duplicated words. Okay, accept one parameter, a tuple of strings, and add a meaningful documentation string and iterate over the tuple and determine if any word in the tuple more than any word is in the tuple more than one time. If so, add it to a list and sort the list and return the sorted list. So okay, we have two nodes and then three highs, and then I want to find all the duplicated items in the tuple, and then I want to return a list, and this list is also sorted. Okay, so df, and then tuple tuple of words. Okay, so let me do this. Well, this is a tuple. And remember, for the tuple we cannot really do that in a we cannot really do a sort. So let me do this. Okay, well, this might be a really tricky and or you can say smart solution. Okay, so let me show you. So meaningful. Okay, I want to build a dictionary like this. So for this one, so yes, no, no, hi, bye, right? Well, I want to build a dictionary like this. So for the yes, it shows for one time, and for no, it shows for twice, and then for high it shows for 3 times, and for by it shows only once. Okay, so we want to do this way. We want to build a dictionary of the counters. So for each of the possible string, that they are the keys, and then for the occurrence of such key, they are the values. Okay, well, I'm going to do a dictionary as counter equals a empty dictionary, and then for string for words for word in tuple of words colon, and then we are going to try to add the word into the dictionary if there is no such entry. So let me check this first. So if word in dictionary, so if this word is already in this dictionary, and then I'm gonna use this dictionary and then use this word as a key, and then I'm gonna add the counter, which is the corresponding value by 1. So for example, I have already seen no twice. If I see another no, I'm going to use the no to grab the value, which is 2, and then I'm going to add 1 to the counter. So this should be 3. Okay, and otherwise, and then I'm going to say this is a word I have not seen before, and then I'm going to just initialize this key with the value as we want. So after that, I will be able to build a dictionary like this. And the next step will be, after having this dictionary, and how do I get all the strings with the with the occurrence higher, equal or higher than 2. Okay, I'm going to do for k in dictionary as counted dot keys parentheses. Okay, and then I also want to create a list to return equals the empty list. So if for the current key, if the value of the current key is greater or equal to 2, and then I want to add this key to the list to return. So list to return dot append k, and eventually I want to do a sort. So it should be the list to return dot sort parentheses, and then I want to return this. Okay, so I guess this is indeed return. Okay, I guess this is indeed a hard question. Let me run this and see if that's correct. Okay, 0 out of 2, so it doesn't like my solution for some reason. Okay, so let me output what I'm returning here. Okay, it's testing this one. It's also testing this one. Well, but I don't see my output. Okay. No. Oh, okay. Yep. I didn't do the print. Okay. I was dumb. Okay, there are none. Okay, so probably I want to separate that into 2 statements. So the list to return equals the list to return dot sort, and then I want to return like this. So let me see if it works. Okay, it works. Huh? Wait, so is that question 10? Okay, it still doesn't work. No, and then let me do this. So for this part, I want to print a plus plus plus, and then I want to print the list to return. So, and then this will help me find my list to return easier. Okay, so plus plus plus, and then I'm returning a none. No. Well, I think the problem is here. So when I'm doing this, the list to return, and then it just stored the list to return in place, probably I don't really need this part. So Let me run this again. Okay, now it works. And I can also see, okay, those are my output. This is my output as well. Okay, so for this part, I can delete that. This is for debugging purpose. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, the last one, debug. So I have the num auth and then int of the list, and then this function currently returns incorrect answers, and find and fix the errors in the function below. And this program accepts a list of the arbitrary number of the parameters, and that's the int list, a list of the integers, and then the num auth should iterate over the numbers in the list, the int list, and then count how many of the integers are odd, and then return the count. So for this one, and then we want to count the odd value, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. So yes, we are returning 4. And restriction, and do not rewrite the function. Okay, yep. So we have the int list and count is 0 for I in the int list. If Okay, we are counting the odd values, so the number 1, this shouldn't be a string, it should be a number, and then we are going to increase by 1 if that is an odd value. So if it's most 2 and then give me a 1, that is a odd value. So, and then, okay, the same trick, the plus equals. Okay, and then eventually I want to return the count. Okay, yep, let me run this again. Whew. Okay, so well, all those questions are done, and probably it took me like half an hour. And of course, for if you are doing this by yourself, and this will take much longer. So well, this is the feeling of the final exam. So if you are able to work with me, or you have worked before me, and you are able to finish everything, and probably I would say you are prepared for the final. Okay, well, otherwise, and feel free to use those problems as a exercise to warm up, and if you need help, and shoot me emails. Okay, so good luck for your final.